All right, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today is the 3rd of August, except it's September 2025. This video is titled The Importance of Even Achilles Tendon Insertions. I'll get into it. Yeah, you're gonna be seeing my bare feet. Okay, so if you got a problem with that, that's on you. These are Converse PF Flyers. Just to give credit where I do. No affiliation with them at all, but just since I'm kind of featuring my feet and the shoes specific in this video, there you go. So we'll talk about it. The Achilles tendon is, I'll show you first before I even get into the intro. You've got the calf muscle, right? Calf muscle here and here on each leg, connects from the knee down and then connects to a tendon that comes from the base of the calf muscle down and connects to the heel of our foot. Okay, calf muscle and then Achilles tendon down to the heel bone of the foot. Okay, basically where my sock tan line, if you will, is at, that's basically the span of the Achilles tendon. Okay, so there you go. It allows the calf muscle to be connected to the heel like I just showed, and really it's the very lowest thing supporting our bodies musculature wise in the lower leg. Besides the feet themselves and their gripped arches, once you travel from that heel of the foot up, that Achilles tendon is huge. So we'll talk about it as we do in the Image Clothing Company. Okay, I'll talk about each of the 4 sides of us briefly. We'll talk about where clothing sits, and then we'll get into the discussion on even Achilles tendons. Okay, so what we do here on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company is allow the human body to work. We do it through clothing. It's the only thing placed on us, but we talk about everything: standing, sitting, walking, eating, breathing, sleeping, hydration, all the things we do as a human being, because the human body is just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. Seriously, when we get down to it, that's all it is. There's a sternum, a spine, a trachea, a nose, and a jaw, which the jaw naturally stabilizes the entire body. And these things are right in the center on Earth's gravity, okay? Earth has a center of gravity that it pulls down on everything with. The body has a center line to the 2 sides of it, 2 feet, gripping arches inward that keep us vertical, 2 lungs, 2 nostrils, 2 sides to the body in all the ways that we already know. And we discussed the anatomy of the human body in depth. So clothing's placed on our bodies, and it has to stay centered, fit correct, where I'll discuss here in a minute, and be made from 100% natural materials. And that's how we allow the human body to work. Materials in themselves are new. As far as the unnatural synthetic ones, stretch within clothing didn't even exist, as well as these materials just decades back from today's date and then ever before then. So muscles in the body only contract. They only get shorter. Every muscle, even if it's doing an opposing function. Okay, there's opposing muscles and they only shorten to work. So when we're within stretchy clothing, our muscles are being so damaged. Okay, stretching musculature is actually damaging as well. The body always can only ever work activated as a whole. It's all there, everything has a role to play, and if it's just allowed to and unaltered, it just will. There's a neutral position to every joint in the body. Okay, neutral wrist is here, straight out from the forearm, down and out the pinky. Okay, that's neutral, and then from there, there's rotations, there's motion in all directions outside of the neutral. Okay, that's how the whole body is, and we place clothing on it. Clothing gets imbalanced size-wise, weight-wise, rotated seams that are different on one side and not the other, and we get into this right-handed patterning. Okay, the right-handed world, a video that we have under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, but also just the case. We live in a world where 85% of us are right-handed. So what happens is we get into patterning where our right side of our body gets farther away from our center line, okay, where the musculature connects, like the shoulder, right? Musculature connects to the sternum and out to the shoulder. It connects to the spine and out to the shoulder. And from there, it just does what it does and has to evenly on both sides of the body, okay? And so our bodies get pulled away from the center on the right side. The musculature is then stretched. They drop and rotate away from the body or external, okay? There's rotations through the whole body, internal rotation toward the center line, as well as external rotation away from the center line, from the hands to the shoulders, from the feet to the hips, and throughout the body. Okay, the forearms and the lower legs are basically the same thing. And there you go. Okay, so we have to keep our clothing centered. It truly is the only fix to human beings' physical problems, clothing. It's the only thing physically placed on us. And in a modern man-made world, it's very, very damaging. Being made from machinery, we have rotated seams, and being made out of these materials, they damage the body in many, many ways. So, clothing, okay? That's why we are a clothing company. But there are 4 sides to us. We also have In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, where we specialize in purebred standard poodles. We breed them properly, registering them under the American Kennel Club, advocating for doing so, keeping less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes. And we do a lot with poodles, letting dogs stay natural. The same thing as allowing the human body to work, just phrased differently for dogs. Here in Utah, the United States of America, we have events called Poodle Parade events, where you can come, bring your purebred poodles of any size, bring your poodle mixes of any size. We will have a lot of good times together. Seriously, we'll have a lot of Poodle Parade events, and we've got mountains, we've got just a bunch of nature. We'll hang out, just have a good time. I'll give a lot of information on letting dogs stay natural. We'll do a lot for the environment in the ways that we do. So come if you'd like. Check in InTheImageClothingCompany.com for scheduling, okay? So we've got In The Image Clothing Company music. I show sizing and setup of guitars to not alter things like that neutral wrist, okay? We're doing fine motor skills when we play guitar, and our bodies only have one way they could ever work. In all positions and all parts of the body, everything has a role to play, and it can't be altered. Otherwise, something else is as well. If the hand is altered, the shoulder will be, and that travels through the whole body, okay? So, music that I make is also placed there on In The Image Clothing Company music, gospel-centered music, the gospel of Jesus Christ. I do lyricism and a lot with music, okay? Metronome madness is one of the things that I do. There's a lot of fun stuff with music that we do, okay? In The Image Clothing Company music. Now, in the Image Clothing Company podcast, we have deep discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. We're just all the same human beings placed on the same earth. We have one God. We discuss him there as he says that he is. We don't do it perfect, but it's an awesome place to check out for some good insights on just life in general, how to navigate this earth. Okay, seriously. And we're on episode 155 of In The Image Clothing Company podcast as of the last one we filmed. So check that out if you'd like to. Now, clothing has to sit in the same location for everybody. It just has to, because the body's a mechanical machine. If you're a man or a woman, tall or short, skinny or fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be, you are just a human being. And pants have to be entirely above our hips, because that's where we actually bend. Side to side is at our spine, which is above our hip bones, and then below our lowest ribs, okay, the natural waist. There's some wasps or bees next to the mic, so if you're hearing that, that's what you're hearing. And then our pant waistline needs to be slightly higher in the front than the rear, because that's where our natural position of our pelvis or hips is nice and tucked posterior to keep the core muscles activated, working with the hamstrings, and the body just neutral, okay? Neutral, natural, normal, synonyms within the human body, and the only way that it could ever work. Now, our tops that we wear have seams on top of our shoulders. The shirt's inside out. You can see the seams well. They need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders, because our shoulders only ever work behind our head. That's just where they connect mechanically, the musculature to the bones. That's where they operate. That's where they hang neutral with gravity. I'm sitting, and so my arms can't actually hang down, but that's where they sit. Okay, shoulders follow shoulder seams. The edges of our tops need to be right at the very edges of our shoulders, just because that's where the functionality of the joint is. And it's a joint of body parts, bones, okay? And it's a joint of material, of clothing. They need to mesh in the same location, and then the body can just work. Two things we have as prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company to not alter the body. Firstly, here in these Converse, the PF Flyers, In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique is the only way you can weave a rope across the top of the human feet and not alter their mechanics. It's just a rope that's going to be reacting the way you weave it, and the feet only have one way they work. We don't own any kind of ownership of the technique, but we just title it In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. You can find it wherever you find us. Our 5-word name as a whole, In The Image Clothing Company. And then we tie shoes as well, and we have to tie shoes evenly over toward the inside, okay, to the center line of the body, because there's two sides to the body. So opposing knots on opposing sides of the body make the body even, okay? And that's huge. That's huge in all ways for the entire body, but specifically for this video, the importance of even Achilles tendon insertions down at the heel, where I was showing at the beginning. This is what's going to directly affect those, okay? If your shoes are tied unevenly, if they're laced in a way that's just not the only way the human foot is shaped, then you'll have damage to the tip of your head and the tips of your fingers from a rope around your feet. We call them shoelaces, but they're just ropes, and ideally they're round. But these are the laces that came in these PF Flyers by Converse, and I just have left them in. I bought these used. So yeah, secondly, we remove all tags from clothing. That's our other prerequisite, because anywhere a tag is placed in clothing, it's just causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate. Included within the shoes, I'll just be transparent, I haven't done anything with the tags in these specific shoes, but this is a very specific video. I'm sitting down, which is different. I'm in these short little shorts, I got my shoes off, and I'm wearing these shoes, which are different than what I would normally be wearing in a few ways. So let's talk about this. The importance of even Achilles tendon insertions. Now, this is where we'll start, because it's as real as it is, as obvious as it gets. It's one of our 2 prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company. And yes, I would normally have socks on when I put my shoes on, but tying shoes, okay? If we have shoes placed on our feet, in the shoes we often have, like I was just saying, ropes. We call them laces, but they are just ropes. And you know, this is one of the main things that was what founded In The Image Clothing Company, in a sense, through me, right? Tying shoes evenly. You take the outside lace and you go over the inside lace and you tuck it underneath, okay? Now we've gone over toward the inside, over toward the center line of the body. And then the next knot you do, you go the opposite direction over toward the outside with the bow, and then that'll be a knot that just only gets tighter when you tie it. And then, okay, inside and then outside. Just keep going opposites if you have excess lacing that you need to keep off the ground. But that's as obvious as it gets when we talk about it as a rope, okay? We're just tying a knot, and so the knot has to be able to oppose the center line of the body, okay? So here, On the left side now, it's the exact same thing, but opposite. And we've been showing this for at least 11 months, right? Since the founding of In The Image Clothing Company. Take the outside over the inside and tuck it underneath. Okay, the same as the other side, except exactly opposite. Now you go outside. Okay, start inside, then you go outside, and now you've got a solid knot that just will only get tighter instead of looser if it's pulled on. Okay, if you've got excessive length to your laces, just go inside again, and then outside, just opposites each time to keep the knot stacking evenly. Okay, so now we've got shoes that will allow our Achilles tendons to be even. Okay, this is the big thing. Like I said at the beginning, the Achilles tendon is the very base of the body. Other than the feet themselves gripping their natural arches, what's connecting the feet to our bodies from there up is that Achilles tendon. And we talk about under In The Image Clothing Company getting out of chronic patterning and scar tissue. That's really what we do. That's what we need to do once we understand how the human body works to the degree we need to just not restrict it, aka allowing the human body to work. Okay, just having our clothing sit on us correct, keeping our body in its neutral positions all the time in our life, and getting out of these chronic patternings and scar tissue. One of the things is the Achilles tendon. Okay, I'll walk a little bit backward and forward, and you can watch my feet just track in line. When our feet grip arches, they grip in like this. Like the hands, the feet and the hands are just about the exact same thing. I talk about it like this, I show it. There's only one difference in the amount of bones in each. The functionality really is so similar. The feet arches correlate with our hand arches. When our feet can be unrestricted, then our hands can really have their natural rounding to them. Like we talk about with guitar setups, right? Needing that radius or rounding in the guitar and just in everything we do in life. This comes from our feet first and travels up to our hands. And from those gripped arches, the neutral ankle travels this outward curvature of the lower leg. And our pinky toes point straight forward. They could be like this while I'm sitting, but when we walk, okay, when we're more vertical, sitting's a little bit different. Well, squatting as well, mechanically, but you can squat with your pinky toes forward, and that's that neutral foot, okay? Just like the neutral wrist is straight out from the pinky finger when you travel down the forearm. So, in this position, when I walk, what's happening is right at the flexion of the ankle where we need to stop our lacing for our shoes, okay, so that our ankles can flex, okay, and move and bend. Right there at the knot, there's a knot. That's the point. And that knot is just one side over the other. And so there's two sides that just need to be evenly opposed, okay, as we show, as I showed, as I tied them, and just as it is. And so with that being the case, if we have shoes that are tied unevenly for even a day, a week, months, years, decades, like I did until I was, give or take, 24 years old, I was tying shoes toward the same direction, just a right-handed knot on both feet. So it was like this, okay? Now, in that position, your Achilles tendons are going to be tracking where the left one in a right-handed knot is tied normally. But then the right one with the same right-handed knot will be tied outside like this. And so you'll be walking like this. And now, as your Achilles tendon comes from the base of your calf muscle down to the heel of your foot, look at this angle that a knot would do tied this direction versus tied this direction, okay? And I'm gonna go so far as to actually do it to show you, okay? This is my right foot, and in a right-handed knot, this is the side that gets tied incorrect so often, okay? My own personal situation as well, like I said, until I was about 24 years old. So here, what we need is over toward the inside, because we're just tying a knot. And from here, you just have one side of a rope over the top of the other side, and the other side coming from underneath, okay? And that's right at the flexion of your ankle. So this over toward the inside, as we did on the left foot, over toward the inside, then allows that neutral lower leg to be in that position as it pushes against the knot. But what we don't think about sometimes is the rear of the leg. Okay, I'll wait for the helicopter for just a second. Okay, still some noise from it, but that's okay. Now, in this right-handed knot, the right-handed world, really just taking either foot and putting it over toward the outside. Now, when you tie that knot, you're just twisting a rope in a way that's pushing your foot like this. And now you'll get binding and cramping all throughout the outside of your lower leg. Your arch is pushed down just because a knot is physically twisting your ankle down, and you'll walk like this, and then you'll be walking like this, okay? And we know this, we meaning anybody who knows In The Image Clothing Company. That's, like I said, one of the main things that allowed me to even found In The Image Clothing Company and come to understand the anatomy of the human body is just shoe lacing and tying, okay? In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. It's just the only way the foot is shaped. If I just have my shoe tied and you just look at my leg from my hip down to my toes and just look at the position that it's in, it's just loose and just there. It's just a natural working foot on both sides of the body, tracking evenly in line with that natural outward curvature of the lower leg. The bone itself is actually curved. There's two bones in the lower leg, and that travels all the way down from the knee to the base of our heel. And so here you go, okay? A natural neutral position of the leg. And I've shown this where I have, I mean, this is kind of the bulk of In The Image Clothing Company, really. It's one of our two prerequisites. In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. But like I was saying, often we don't think about what happens on the rear of the leg, because we'll feel the pain. Trust me, I know. Then you don't have to trust me, but I know. You'll feel the pain, right? Especially right here on the outside of the leg, right off the side of that bone that's here, the shin bone, okay? Because what that knot does, just tied incorrect, is, like I showed, collapse the arch, and now you've got the lower leg curving outward, getting to the ankle, and then going the opposite direction because of what the knot is doing to twist the whole ankle that travels to the tip of your head and the tips of your fingers. So we need to follow this outward curvature all the way to the heel. But one thing we don't think about is the Achilles tendon. And at least I didn't think all that much about it, and I know a lot of people don't, because you won't really feel all that much happening back there. Although, often you'll hear people walk and you hear this click, click, click coming from their foot, ankle when they're walking. That's in a big way coming from that Achilles tendon not being able to track in line, okay? Pulling this calf muscle evenly from the knee where it inserts back here down to the heel. There just needs to be an even in-line position where that Achilles tendon will pull, okay? And what's going to inhibit that? A rope, okay? So ideally round laces, ideally no give at all, okay? Really taut, tough laces so that our arches can grip and they can have predictable feel against stiff laces, if you will, right? Solid laces. And when you have flat laces like this, they'll twist in parts and then they'll be flat in other parts, and it's just not so even across the foot. But times and places, right? Like I was saying with these specific shoes for me, I still have these laces in. Now, we need to focus on the insertion of that Achilles tendon. We have videos under In The Image Clothing Company titled The Importance of Even Lat Insertions, the big muscle that comes down from our arm up here in the rear, down our back, connects to some of the lowest vertebrae of our spine, and then the top of the crest of our pelvis. There's one on each side. It's a big muscle that comes down. And we talk about, because of the right-handed world, our right latissimus dorsi muscle, latissimus dorsi, however you pronounce it personally, or just lat for short, the insertion, when it comes down and connects to the pelvis, gets really moved off to the side. Because if our bodies are just moved off to the side because of this right-handed patterning, then there you go, okay? Bound up scar tissue and musculature right where it connects to the bone, okay? We talk about a lot of parts of the body on the right side. The outside of the right forearm, the outside of the right pinky finger, the right wrist, the right elbow, the right collarbone, the right lower leg, right? And that's a big thing, is this lower shin bone here. Well, the shin bone, which is the lower leg, because like I'm saying, it's the same thing as the forearm, essentially, okay? And when we have things being bound up here in the forearm, it'll travel down to our lower leg. If we have things being bound up in the lower leg, it'll travel up to our forearm, okay? The feet to the hands, the ankles to the wrists, the knees to the elbows, the upper arm to the upper leg, and then the shoulders to the hips, okay? This is really how the human body works. It's basically the same from the hips up and then from the hips down. Very simple. We discuss it as it is under In The Image Clothing Company. So this is the big point with that Achilles tendon and talking about insertions of musculature, okay? Really, this is the insertion of the tendon to the bone, because muscles connect to tendons and then tendons connect to bones. That's how the body connects mechanically. So when we have, however long it's been, of a knot twisting our ankle, that Achilles tendon will just move off to the outside of the rear of our heel of our foot, okay, where it inserts to the actual heel bone. And it'll create what's called a bone spur. And I've talked about this since the founding of In The Image Clothing Company. We get bone spurs in the body, like right here behind our ear at the sternocleidomastoid muscle insertion to the skull, okay, on the right side specifically. On the elbow, people's elbows become very pointy, okay? Mine is still slightly pointier, if you will, on my right side than on the left. And throughout the body, in the knee, you can have this happen, and essentially that's what's going on the rear of the pelvis crest on the right side, right? The hip crest in the rear. of our bodies down at the very base of our spine where that latissimus dorsi muscle connects, okay? So this just happens throughout the body. If something's being pulled on in a position that's not neutral, where it's connecting to the bone, in this case the Achilles tendon, it will just pull on that bone over time, put excessive strain and force on it, and the bone will actually grow unnaturally shaped, okay? There will be scar tissue, there will be excess tendon material, right? All the stuff that connects right there at the insertion will just kind of bulge off, grow, and just be misshapen, okay? So yeah, we just need our bodies to work in line in their only neutral positions, right? And they just will, unless or until altered by man-made things placed onto the body, okay? Drawstrings ideally are round as well, okay? I practice what I preach, except I'm not perfect, so same reasons as to why I was saying shoelaces ideally are round, okay? So you can check out how drawstrings affect body mechanics under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, okay? We need to tie our drawstring knots even, as well as our shoes even, because we'll be rotating our entire pelvis if we're tying knots around the hips that are rotating, okay? So the slipped lap knot is what we show. Tie the tail end toward the center, and then you've got the body even right at the hips, okay? But people often talk about how there's people who have different shaped legs. If you're stepping up on something, people will say some people have lower legs, feet, ankles, calf musculature that is shaped in a certain way where it'll look like blank, right? And they'll show you how they think it looks to do this, okay? If you're standing here, this is what you could call a calf raise, okay? Just going onto your toes and then coming back down onto your heels. Well, there's only one way that can happen, because there's only one way the human body could ever work. There's only one way musculature inserts to bones, okay? There's only one way all the bones can clear each other in the feet. There's only one way arches grip in the feet. There's only one neutral to that outward curvature from the heel of our foot up to the knee. And that's something you can see sitting like this, cross-legged, very easily. Look at this outward curvature. That has to be there. Otherwise, if your feet are like a lot of people's are and like this, well, if you try to sit like this, your feet would be like here, and you just couldn't even sit. There's just an outward curvature. There's just a neutral to everything in the body. And that's it. And there's only one way the human body could ever work, okay? But what happens is people get in patterning from clothing that they've put on their body in certain ways for years. And then when people are addressing or assessing the human body of an individual, they look at the body and see it within its patterning. But we have to remember, bone gets misshapen and musculature gets excessively shortened or excessively elongated. Skin gets stretched. I mean, the body really gets ridiculously deeply into patterning. And you can see this within my own documentation. Evan Strong, as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, I've been filming videos since the founding, and my body has physically transformed, not to anything, but just out of patterning, because I was in chronic deep patterning. And there's still things that I'm working on within my own body, patterning wise, and you're able to see it. And that's one of the most beautiful things about when and how In the Image Clothing Company got founded through me, is I'm able to be the visual example of what I show here, right? What we are as In the Image Clothing Company, and what I have come to know as the founder. So there's just only one way the human body could ever work. And the thing with those Achilles tendons is they just get so inhibited. I'll show it with my shoes off, because I'm trying to think how I need to approach this. I'm trying to pray through it, is really what I'm doing. Because there's just one inline position. You're not going to overcome a knot with a rope. You're not going to overcome the weave of a rope and try to get your body to just do what you think it should or what it just would within a tangle of rope or a knot of a rope. It's the only fix, clothing. So, you know, people will go do workouts and they'll do it within unevenly tied shoes, and now your whole body is altered, okay? And you're deepening the patterning, you're deepening the scar tissue throughout all of your body to the tip of your head and the tips of your fingers, just from a knot around your feet, okay? So, it's crazy. The big thing is, picture something like driving a vehicle, okay? Almost always in a vehicle, you will have your right foot like this, rotated external at the lower leg and really up to the hip, and pressing on a gas pedal, coming over, pressing on a brake, and it's clear off to the outside of your body like this. Now, if you're tying your shoes unevenly toward the right, you're in this basically exact same position anyway throughout your whole life within shoes, that then travels to when your shoes are not on your feet, okay? So we need even feet. There's just two sides to the body. There's just an inline position straight out from that pinky toe, gripping arches inward, neutral, lower leg, okay? Now, if you're driving and you're like this, well, your Achilles tendon will be just off to the outside. I mean, just where the weight's placed, it's on the outside of your heel. And so now as you're just moving on the gas pedal of the vehicle, on the brake, you're just here, okay? But even if you never drove a vehicle, just tying your shoes to one side, being the right, you would just sit down and all the weight would be on the outside of your right heel, but then neutrally on the rear of your left one, okay? Because it's tied over toward the inside, neutral, okay? If it's tied toward the right, on the left foot, okay? So, here you are, imbalanced, and anything you ever do, you're training that Achilles tendon to track in a position like this, just off to the right side of your heel at the very base of your body, that then travels up your whole body, rotating the whole body external, okay, from the heel, really the ankle where the knot's at, up the lower leg, which, right, there's rotations in the lower leg, a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, rotations of the lower leg, internal and external, okay? Traveling up to the hip, there's rotations internal and external at the hip. Traveling up the spine, twisting the spine, out to the shoulder, there's rotations internal and external at the shoulder, and then out to the hand, because the hands are essentially the shoulders, as the feet are essentially the hips, okay? It's just a knot, it's just a rope, it's just something that has to be evenly over toward the center, because there's just a neutral position to the body, okay? It's only one way the human body could ever work. Clothing is truly the only fix to human beings' physical problems. It's just how it is. So, the point being, the Achilles tendon on the right foot, okay? You're here, and this is hard, because you have to get this right leg out in that outward curvature and tie it in correct to where it's rotating the ankle external, right? You'd be like this, and your knee just can't get down with your ankle like this, okay? Tied outside, if you will, over toward the outside, right-handed on the right foot, incorrect, okay? We need to tie over toward the inside. There's that neutral curvature of the lower leg. And then now you can sit like this and you can actually get your knee down, okay? Now look at this. In the Image Clothing Company music, we're playing a guitar here. Your body can work, you're centered. There you go, okay? So there you go, I guess. The big point is the rear of your heel on the outside, you'll notice a bulge if you're within patterning, and to the degree that you are, of the bone back here off to the right, okay? And you'll see this when people stand. You can look down their Achilles tendon on their lower leg, okay, the rear of their leg, as we've been talking about this whole video, and you'll see it's just uneven from left to right when people stand. I'll take my shoes off, I'll show you the rear of my lower legs, okay? Because anything in the body that's imbalanced is imbalanced, and it's affecting and altering the whole body's only working position, okay? But something like the heel of the foot, that's the very foundation of the whole body. That'll travel through all of it more than a lot of other things imbalance-wise would travel through the whole body, because Earth's gravity, I mean, that's really the point with clothing staying centered. You know, the majority of it is just dealing with gravity, dealing with the fact that there's always a center of gravity and there's a center line to the human body, and we have to mesh those two things, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing with most all things we address in clothing, just gravity. And at the very base of gravity to our bodies is our heels, the insertion of that Achilles tendon. Okay, so look at this. When I'm standing here, you can look down, some grass on my feet, but the rear of my leg, and this is that tendon, right here. You can tell the muscle starts, like I was showing, basically where the line from where my socks have been is, and then this is the tendon coming down, and this is the heel bone, okay? And there's a little bit of like cushioning, if you will, under the heel bone of, you know, but the heel bone is right here. You can see it, and you can probably tell on my own right heel over here on the outside, it's still a little bit bulged off more than on this left side. Oh yeah, I mean, I think you can probably see that pretty well. I can feel it really well. I can see it really well personally. But, right, you can see that lower leg's curvature outward all the way down, and then a gripped arch. And I've got really healthy feet, okay? And so I say that because I'm grateful. I never did in the past, and it's awesome to be able to show what it really looks like to have a healthy foot arch and, right, a lot of motion and mobility in the feet. There's only one neutral. So I talk about often the scar tissue here on the right shin, because if you're here, right, tying shoes to the right, and let me be very clear, it would just be the opposite if you're tying shoes to the left, but 85% give or take of the earth are right-handed, as we say, as we show, and just as it is. But yeah, you just, you know, if you're like this, your ankle is just tracking in a right-handed knot on both shoes, just out of alignment. So yeah, you'll get bound up musculature across this whole shin bone, or along the whole shin bone, just in the angle, if you will, of where the foot's tracking, when the foot really tracks here in line. It's a little spider on my leg. So there you go, okay? The point is, it's also the rear. I think a big part of it is just it's not all that easy to get to the rear of our own bodies a lot of the time. We're not looking at the rear of our own bodies a lot of the time, like the Achilles tendon insertion is what I mean, because it's just behind where our eyes are. So we'll look down, we'll massage our bodies like this, you know, and a lot of times we don't think about back here, okay? And a lot of times you just wouldn't either, because it's not musculature, and so many people will be addressing the musculature of their body when really it's the skeletal system, right? As we talk about under In the Image Clothing Company, it really is about the skeletal system, and that's what it is the insertions of muscles to the skeletal system. So yeah, what you can do is just take that little bulge on the outside of that bone of the right lower heel where the Achilles tendon inserts. Yeah, because mine's still not quite even, and that's a testament to really what we do here under In the Image Clothing Company. But yeah, just massage out right where the tendon meets that bone and allow your foot to get in like this. Picture you laying the outside of your leg down, and you need to just have your foot be able to get in for that to happen, and then ideally it could just track in line like that, right? Same thing as when you're standing, just in like that, and then just allow that Achilles tendon insertion to be able to track in this position rather than being like this for so long, okay? It travels up to your knee, it travels up to your hip. I said it earlier, but through your whole body, just because everything will be out of alignment from, it's only neutral. So I'll walk away from the camera and I'll walk back. I said earlier with the shoes on that I was going to walk, and I didn't yet. I haven't yet, I guess. So here you go. Okay, the feet point forward, and the only way they're allowed to is if the thing that's really propelling the feet and supporting the feet, and then from there up, the whole body, being that Achilles tendon, can track in line. That's the only way that that'll be able to happen. So yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's hugely important, okay? The importance of even Achilles tendon insertions. So there you go. And I guess just I'll briefly say this, it doesn't only come from shoes, but it can come from your hips, from uneven drawstring knots. It can come from things in your pockets, which we should never have things in our pockets, okay? It can come from things up at the shoulders, uneven shoulder seams, your whole body falling off to the right. Your feet will just try to accommodate for that, and your right foot will just go off to the side to support you, because up at your shoulders, your body is falling off to the side, and gravity is just going to pull down from where the weight is, okay? So the foot moves off to just support you, and now that Achilles tendon moves off because it's just tracking off to the side rather than in line, okay? So the dreaded collar seam. Under In the Image Clothing Company, we have our dreaded collar seam modification. Okay, if there's ever a seam in the collar of our top, when collars need to stay centered, okay, you can see all the musculature coming up through my collar and my neck as I do this. Those type of things, meaning things in the collar, things in the shoulder seams, shoulder seam discrepancies on top of our shoulders, right? Short sleeves on our forearms, sleeve cuffs on our hands, pant cuffs on our feet, short cuffs, if you will, on our lower legs. All of these things, anything, everything in clothing, all the things that we talk about under In the Image Clothing Company, from even above the calf muscle, can travel down to the Achilles tendon insertion and alter its neutral tracking position, okay? So there you go. All right, if you tie your shoes evenly, then sitting your heels down like I was showing, you'll be here, okay? Neutral on each side. If you tie your shoes unevenly, anytime you set your heels down, you'll be uneven, and there you go, okay? So it's just as real as it gets. There's a lot of things we talk about, a lot of things, minute little adjustments, modifications, right? We give so many free modifications under In The Image Clothing Company where you don't have to purchase In The Image Clothing Company clothing to allow your body to work. That just doesn't make sense, right? But anything that I haven't mentioned here and anything at all in clothing, in the body, that's just changing the way the body works in any part of it can travel all the way down, because your feet are what's supporting the rest of everything, and they will get affected because they have to just try to stay underneath your center of gravity, okay, like I was showing. So the feet will move out from underneath you in a sense, okay? Well, even things like the jaw. We talk about, like our video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, workouts don't help the jaw. The jaw stabilizes the whole body, and it needs to stay in the center of the body so the body can stay in the center of Earth's gravity, right? Like this light pole behind me here, it just has to stay centered, otherwise it'll just fall over, okay? If this light pole, this is a real good example actually, was leaning to the right, okay, like shoulder seams off to the right, like a collar seam on the left, placing the shirt and the body off to the right, dropping it on the right, rotating it external, farther away from the body, okay? Now the body's leaning off to the right, like this pole leaning off to the right. You'd have to have something at the base of the pole off to the right farther to support it underneath its center of gravity. So that's essentially this Achilles tendon insertion moving off to the right to support the body more on Earth's gravity, okay, just underneath the center of gravity from whatever's inhibited from clear up at the top of the body. So there you go, okay? It's anything, it's everything, it's all things that affect the body anywhere. It's going to go down to its foundation. It's, you know, we talk about it, everything and anything is only as good as its foundation, like a building or like this light pole, okay? Yeah, so InTheImageClothingCompany.com, that's where you find In The Image Clothing Company everything, okay? In The Image Clothing Company clothing, as well as In The Image Clothing Company dog products. Collars, leashes, harnesses, things placed on dogs are just the same as human beings. Dogs have to stay centered on Earth's gravity as well, like keeping collars centered, right? That's the same for dogs. So there you go. Thank you, and a third thank you. This has been a good video, a little bit unconventional, a little bit different location than I have been filming videos in lately, and it's always a little bit different when my shoes are off. I'm in short shorts. But the information in this is huge, and it's one of those things that I personally haven't put that much focus on, and I think that's good to say. Since founding In The Image Clothing Company, I've been aware of it, I've realized it, right, the Achilles tendon and its need to track in line, but I haven't put that much focus until just the past couple days here on actually releasing and ridding the scar tissue of my right Achilles tendon insertion down there at the heel of my foot. So there you go, okay? There you go, and there you go. It's one of those videos I don't even want to cut. This is huge, even the noise, I mean, as I say, right, In The Image Clothing Company, raw and real, it's just what it is. And it's actually crazy because I did a video in the same location titled The Natural Walking Human Gait Cycle or something along the lines of that in the fall of 2024, you know, right after the very founding of In The Image Clothing Company. And that was one of the only videos that I've had with my shoes off and it was right here in this basically same location. So it's kind of like a full circle moment, almost a year into In the Image Clothing Company. It's really cool for me personally. So anyway, there you go. Okay, socks. Oh my gosh, we can get into anything. I can talk about everything, anything, all things, anywhere in clothing, anywhere on the body or in the body that could alter its only neutral location that will travel down to the Achilles tendon. Okay, so just is what it is, and it's extremely humbling. Shoes need to be flat on the earth like our feet would naturally be. Okay, no artificial things inside of shoes, right? Fake support to the arches underneath them that actually collapse them. Ideally, they're shaped the way the feet are. These are slightly squishy on my feet. Like I said, I just bought these shoes used. They're good in the ways they are. Right, I talked about shoelaces a little bit in here, and tags in shoes. Socks need to be following that outward curvature of the lower leg when we put them on, right? Just in that same outward twist, if you will, that the lower leg does when our arches grip inward. I want to be clear, you know, I have this idea, if you will, of just giving all the secrets away. I know there's a lot of companies out there, and even through the what sounds like a pressure washer noise, and people don't really, you know, explain all of what they do. They give partial information and then make you pay for the rest. And in the Image Clothing Company, I've said since the founding, I want us to be as real as this, for example, but also just transparent, just open, not like, you know, having conditions on you have to pay us for us to give you information that can change your life. I mean, we're only discussing God's design with the human body. That's all we're doing, and just how to allow it to be unaltered. And so, you know, that's why our videos are long, as I say. That's why I get into a lot of things just talking about one thing, because there's only one way the human body could ever work. And we all have one. We've all been given it by God. It's not something that I can like harbor information from rightfully if I know, right? So there you go. Crazy. I'm thirsty. I haven't drank anything today. This is what it's like, right? And so this is what I mean. In the Image Clothing Company Poodle Parade events, it'll be just real like this, right? Just come hang out, have a good time. Don't expect us to be some like business. We're just people hanging out, giving information. It's just as real as it gets, okay? So there you go, documented on the 3rd of September, 2025, the importance of even Achilles tendon insertions. And then you'll be able to see as well, like I'm showing with videos I have filmed up until today's date and the time in between there, the transformation that's happened in my own personal physical body. From this point forth as well, you're able to see how my body works, right? Just mechanically for the sake of the information we give. Today on the 3rd of September 2025, and then going forth you can see, yeah, as I get further out of these patternings and my body works even more unrestricted, more naturally, you can just see, right, the fruits of the labor, the consistency of the information we talk about, and just the truth within what we really do here. Okay, so thank you, man. This is going to be an hour-long video, just about. It's as real as it gets. And you know, I make it clear, we're not about clothing, we're about the human body's natural function. We're not some clothing company, we're not trying to make fashion designs. We're just doing all that we can to allow the body to work. Very minimal, very simplistic. That's how the body works the best. If nothing was on it at all, it would work the most ideal. There's a little jumping spider. So there you go. I actually do like these shoes quite a bit. No affiliation with the brand by any means as of today's date, but anyway, I'm gonna keep talking as long as I feel like I need to keep talking. Oh, my knees. Okay, check us out, stick around for the poodles. We'll do so much through poodles. As much as we help the human body, we'll do all that we can to help dogs in the same way. It doesn't have to be just poodle specific. Any dog you have, its body is going to work just about the exact same as a poodle. Okay, so golly. Yeah, eating and drinking with the left hand is the point. That's a video we have under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. We talk about it. We have to eat with one side of the body as even as the other side if we want to stay centered. Otherwise, yes, our center of gravity will be moved off to the side from our jaw, and then our feet will be moved off to just stabilize the body that's imbalanced from closer to the top here at the jaw, okay? There's a lot that we talk about. A lot, okay? This is one of those videos we'll reminisce on. We meaning me and whoever else cares to care. Once we are just so much bigger, impact-wise, spread-wise, meaning like who knows about us and who's buying In The Image Clothing Company products and everything down the road, we can look back on this. Before we ever had any poodles, before we ever had any products of any kind to sell, right? That's one of the biggest reasons for these videos at this time period. The way I'm laying them out, the information that I'm giving, the reason they're so long is to show from the very founding, we've been saying the same things. It still applies, it always has, even before I was saying it. And there you go, okay? It's so humbling, it's so ridiculous, it's unreal to be able to go from such deep chronic patterning to where I personally am even as of now, and then continually getting out of patterning as I do, as I need to, right? Until ideally we rid our bodies from all the scar tissue they've built up, from all the imbalances that they've created. And whether that takes a long time or not all that long, it's just such a gift to be able to do all this. And to be able to have the knowledge of what to do. Because a lot of times people just don't know. As much as they want to help, if you don't know where to look, you don't know where to look. And yeah, okay. So thank you.